Wait, I gotta read it first.
Tonight, coming to you from the middle of the world, the one and only, from Telesur Studios in Quito, Ecuador, it's our privilege and our pleasure to introduce you to Andrew Zell.
Tonight, we're gonna talk about one of the most dastardly of words, the C word. It's a word that, well, you can't really use in polite society. And every time I bring it up at the dinner table, people look at me a bit funny and ask me to leave. Yes, I'm talking about class. And you say, why would I talk about class? It's one of those things that's been flattened out in this day and age. It's something that doesn't really exist, especially in my home country, Australia. We think that nothing really exists like this. We've had a huge global boom of wealth, but in the end, it's been transferred to only a few people. Like one Morgan Stanley analyst said, it's when all the water brought up didn't bring up all the ships, it only brought up a few mega yachts. Now people say you're often complaining when you talk about class. Oh, you don't really know what it is. If you just work hard, there's no way out of it. This is the way people talk about class. But no, it is something that is real. It is something that grinds down everyday people, grinds down you and me. And you see, the thing is as well that for people like me, we have what thing called Zygmunt Bauman talked about, liquid mobility. We can move around, get new jobs, we may not have stability, we may not have a lot of money, but we've got something else. We are subject to a middle class sensibility. But for other people who don't have this, who come from the working class, the class system grinds them down every day. And so often people are more worried about people starving in other countries than the class system destroying their own country. This is why to forget about class, it's not only stupid, it's morally corrosive. Let's check out some of the stupidity of that tonight. Welcome to the Self Show. C words, F words, and self words. And now let's take a look at some real news. A junior member of Deutsche Bank's sales team accidentally moved $6 billion to a hedge fund, according to the Financial Times and an acquaintance. So that means you moved $12 million in 24 hours without anyone noticing. And according to the same person, they said that this is kind of a common occurrence. Is this how money really works? Well, if it works, my producer has asked me that if anyone wants to move $6 billion, they can into his account. The SWIFT code number is FUCXXX, you all capitalism. A bird that wasn't extinct, but was thought to be extinct, did become extinct after the man who thought it was extinct killed it. Now, this guy Filati from the Natural History Museum said he would do this because he thought that more species would develop in its place. Bye, little birdie. Fear on a plane. A plane flying from Lisbon towards Dublin had a bit of a problem. A man went around biting everyone, and it turned out he was rabbit, and then when the plane got diverted to Cork, the man was dead on arrival. Now, no one else complained that they didn't like the beef. An Egyptian television station has used a video game to explain what's going on in Syria. Instead of having footage of Russians bombing ISIS, it had a game called Apache Assault. Now, of course, everyone else is quite quick to criticize this, and we really would have liked to have seen Angry Birds as the game to describe what's going on in Syria. Have you ever been inside a shopping mall on a Sunday afternoon thinking, I could be outside, lying on the grass with the Andean breeze brushing over me, whispering all my ideas and thoughts to the clouds, dreaming of another world, but instead you're inside a shopping centre jammed with queues of franchise chains and every table filled with people eating crap food? Well, I know I have a girlfriend too. But capitalism gets even worse. It makes us, well, shit for brains, dumb sheep. And smartphones are the worst, of course. Now check out this guy who thought, well, I need a smartphone so much, I will stick my hand in my own poo. Of course, he's done what everyone else has done, dropped their smartphone in the toilet, but he's gone digging for it and got stuck there so much so that a fireman had to come rescuing. I guess he got his hand stuck in his own shit. And that's this week's news.
People are talking a lot about inequality these days, about the fact that the richest 1% have so much more than everybody else. But most of the focus seems to be on the United States, and it strikes me that the same story needs to be told about global inequality too. So I did some research, and this is what I found from reliable sources like the UN. It turns out that while the US is totally out of whack, things are actually way worse for the planet as a whole. Let's start with this graph. A perfectly even distribution of wealth among all living people, with everyone divided into 5 equal groups. Now, let's show how much each group actually has. Shocking, right? 80% of the world's people barely have any wealth. It's hard to even see them on the charts. Meanwhile, the richest 2%, they have more wealth than half of the rest of the world.
And we have another study for you. It shows that elite firms are systematically excluding working class people because they've got to filter them out, because they don't have enough polish. They say they're looking for diamonds within the mud. And by filtering, what we mean is running dirt through a disinfected sieve. You see, this kind of system, well, obviously it's not really fair, but the rich think it's fair. They think it's meritocracy. They deserve to get there because, you know, their mummy and daddy bought them a BMW when they were 18 and took them to cello lessons, packed their lunch every day, while all the poor people didn't even have money to eat nor go to college. Not a super fair system. But the thing is, we don't really understand that system. The game is rigged. You have rich people getting rich jobs because they know the right people. But not only that, because they say the right accent. You put an R in bathroom and you're okay. You have a stupid shitty Australian accent like me from a lower class, you ain't getting anywhere but telesaw. But hey, billionaires have feelings too. The founder of Home Depot took to CNBC to, well, complain that Barack Obama is not showering him with cash loaded up with pom-poms filled with diamonds. You see, why should we make these poor billionaires feel bad? I mean, they were rescued by bailouts, tax decreases, middle class sending all their money to them, so it's very difficult without cheerleaders cheering them on. And consider some of the poor things they've had to go through. I mean, the guy from JP Morgan, well, he went and lost $20 million and got $20 million worth of fines in his company. So he did get a pay rise of $20 million to make up for that, of course. And then there's Hostess. You don't know who Hostess is? You know Twinkies. Well, if you're from the United States, you do. If you're not, you don't really know what they are. But they're the most disgusting food known to humanity. And as a result, that company went broke. Poor them. Imagine all the business people out of a job. Well, they did it right. They fixed it up. You know how they did it? Well, before they closed down, they all gave themselves $300 million wages. Very good. So the 18,500 people who went out of jobs, who are working in the factories of Twinkies, well, don't really worry about them because everyone else got $300 million more because they're in charge of the company. Now, I've got a new product idea for these people. It's sort of like a yellow-shaped biscuit with a chocolate pinwheel on top with a bit of vanilla icing. It's called the Golden Parachute. But really, we do need to think about all the problems the rich have to go through. The Guardian recently had an article saying the top 1% are really struggling to deal with their poor old lives. I mean, imagine all the problems they go through. Imagine that time that your private chef is out, so you can't have that truffle biscuit, white Kobe beef, whatever it is for dinner. Or you're with your high-powered CEOs and you all want to go out to the best restaurant in town, but you have to settle for a mid-version fusion restaurant, and then you find their personal chef is out. Or what about rent being so high in Manhattan that you're forced to buy? I mean, your parents are both execs, so they can help you out with it. So what would be the point of renting? It's just a waste of money when you could buy a penthouse apartment. But what happens if you crash your yacht? Or stack your Bugatti? Or even worse, get your golf resort like Donald Trump rejected in Scotland. The things those rich people have to go through that we would just never understand. Global inequality is increasing. Now, old mates at Oxfam continually churn out reports showing this, that the top 1% are getting more and more and more of the wealth. In fact, they own more than half the wealth of the world. And the top 0.1% of the population, well, they're getting a bit of a pay increase, 22% in fact, while the bottom 90%, they're kind of going down. gaps are getting bigger. So what do we do about this? Well, firstly, it's kind of hard to, because once you start criticizing the rich, you get called to being envious of your wealth. Why don't you work hard like us? So unless we start criticizing them and eating them, then we can't do anything about it. Until then, we need to address the root causes of poverty and eat the rich.